evidence is unreliable or unavailable. That is to say that perhaps you don't have enough information. Nowadays with the internet, you have access to a lot of things, okay? But in those times, you don't have statistics, you don't have evidence, because it was destroyed, perhaps, okay? Everything was on paper, or perhaps it was not reliable, because perhaps the factory owners invented, okay, certain things just to forge things, or to make it, or to bias information. Okay, so that's why it is unavailable or unreliable. Okay, and finally, okay, it is very, very difficult to assess the standard of living, because the evidence is not or wouldn't be adequate. Okay, sometimes there are pessimists, I mean, as regards researchers, okay, that can put an emphasis on the aspect of the aspects of urbanization, and how urbanization destroyed nature, for example, or the rural life. Yes, but on the other hand, there are some people that are in favor, the ones that, let's say, the optimists, okay, that say, for example, that perhaps the Industrial Revolution caused a lot of problems to the people. The situation before the Industrial Revolution was sometimes worse, okay? So you have, like, sometimes it be biased, okay? But through these two opposing viewpoints, okay? But just let me know, what time is it? We have 3 minutes, okay? Let's stop here, and then we click on the same link and we return, okay? Because I don't want to. Okay, so click on, I'm going to end the session and click on the same link. Okay, yes, the punch. Okay, and go back here. Okay, so we have that there was an impact on the building industry during this period. Okay, it is said that the author says that there was a rise, okay, in the living standards of the people. Okay, he states that, okay, that the living standards rose during those times. He gives certain conditions. For example, the rise in population. Remember, with there was a drastic takeoff in the birth of people, and a decrease in the death rate during this time, and that there was a moment, okay, in perhaps 40 years, 40 or 50, up to the 40s, okay, that due to this rise in population, after that, after these 40, 60 years, there was a fall, okay, in the conditions of the people, especially because, not especially, but there was certain problems as regards the building industry. Okay, what can you tell me about the impact of the building industry during this period? Because if you have more people, if there are more people, you need more houses, of course. Okay, but what happened during those times as regards the building industry?
The building industry, it came into pressure because of the rise of the population and because of the age of marriage was falling. Those were
okay, that's important. Okay, yes, Tanya, that's it, because imagine people getting married at an earlier age. It was very common to see, I don't know, 17, 16-year-old people getting married. Now it's not that common, and it's forbidden, of course, by law. But now people tend to if people get married, people tend to do it at a later age. And
Or they
but
don't do
so
it at all.
there are, oh, they don't do it, yes. Okay. And so you have more people, more marriages, and of course the tendency is that if you get married you have to go and rent or build your own house. Okay. And what happened with the conditions of the houses in those times, because this is going to be
And the
very important
condition,
later.
and I mean the quality is much better, because before the houses and all the buildings were made of rock and wood, and now that you have iron and the structure is more efficient and you can build bigger uh, buildings,
Okay, yes,
and you
but
can
what
provide more
happened?
materials.
Okay, yes, okay. But what happened if there are more people demanding for households, if there are more at a faster rate, the conditions and the building industry are going to, or they will do it in a quicker way, and perhaps the material will not be that good as before. Okay, they are going to build it faster and the conditions are not going to be good. There will be more houses, and perhaps the drainage or the sewage system, you know, alcantarillas, cloacas, and many other things are not going to be efficient. Okay, so that is going to cause a problem. Okay, because you're going to see the appearance of slums. Okay. Now it is, now we have that term in our language as, I don't know. Well, there were many names in history. For example, in Argentina, first they were called Villa Miseria, then they were called Villa, then Barrios Marginales, then Barrios Populares, and now there is another name for that, Barrio Emergente, or I don't know. Yes, but you see that that is going to
Barrio de
be very
emergencia.
problematic. Okay, yes, barrio de emergencia. Okay, so that is going to be a problem later. Okay, that is going to be a problem because you're going to have the appearance of diseases. Because if you don't have a good sewage and drainage system, okay, the bacteria, okay, and viruses are going to affect more people. Okay, and if, well, we know now with the pandemics that, okay, isolation is preferred. Okay, and in those times you have many
Mister?
people in a small, yes.
Maybe one reason was that building industry did not benefit from technological innovation.
Okay, that's it. Okay. Okay, so perhaps by this rush of doing things quicker and faster, they did it without the proper improvements in technology as regards the quality of the material. Okay, perhaps you're going to have, yes, perhaps the in the past houses were made of rocks, okay, but then bricks, but only those who could afford, who could pay for a house made of brick. Okay, if you were 16 years old or 17 years old, okay, I don't know if it was possible, and you work in a factory, it was not that possible. There was a rise in the living standards during this period. Okay, because as I told you, these conditions, the rise in population, the author mentions also that the national income increased faster than population, so that is a good sign. Okay, it is said also that um, people had more money to spend on food because there was an increase in the demand for food. Yes, you have also that the working classes, there is an evidence there that the working classes joined certain groups, certain societies that they were called friendly societies. It would be like, do you know if friendly society, do you have an equivalent to something in Spanish in which the society or that group offers certain benefits in return for a small payment of money. Do you
It
know
can be
any?
mutuales.
Yes, okay, good, good. Something similar to mutuales, okay, in which you pay a certain amount of money, and maybe you have medical insurance, okay, perhaps, or certain benefits as regards meetings or things of the sort, right? Another instance that shows that the working conditions improved is because of the appearance of saving banks, okay, saving banks, like Banco de Ahorro, yes, something of the sort, that if though there is appearance of saving banks, that means that there are people that can save. Yes, that there is in kind of extra money, okay, not only to spend on the rent or on the food or whatever, but also to save. So the appearance of those saving banks also show the rise in the standard of living, right? We can say also that even though the money rate of the wages were the same, perhaps, and sometimes, perhaps the mobility of the workers changed. Maybe some people that started as unskilled workers who were not paid very well later became skilled workers because they got better skills and they changed their jobs and they got better positions in the factories and they became skilled workers and they got more money. Of course, they got better wages. So you can say that there the situation is improved. Okay. But of course, we can see that from a chronological perspective, there were many ups and downs. Okay, it is very, very difficult to say that some years there were periods of economic booms, but then you have slumps, again booms, slumps. Okay, so there are many things like that. Okay, so the author says that the process of industrialization raised their working class living standards, but it produced a great deal of suffering, okay, because of this inconsistency as regards economy, okay, and the ones who suffer the most are workers, usually, okay, always, not usually, always. And finally, you have that the author says that, or according to the author, was there a revolution or an evolution as regards the process of industrialization? What does he say about that? Revolution or evolution? Two options, 50%, come on, of possibilities. Of course, it's going to be, I mean, he gives different viewpoints. He says that there was an evolution, okay, because he says that according to the data, according to the information, perhaps the preconditions were similar to other parts of of Europe, okay, or that the situation as regards to working class was similar to those during the Industrial Revolution, but he's going to say that perhaps industrialization caused a better impact in finance and trade, that is to say foreign investment, rather than the provincial manufacturers, than the provincial factories, okay? So in a way, wealth was shared more among the members of the middle class and upper middle class, you see, than on the worker. So he says it was an accumulation of factors that contributed to this takeoff. It is, of course, it is impossible, or we cannot say that it was not a kind of sudden change, okay? But perhaps it was not as big as some historians say, okay? I mean, it was not as drastic as sudden as some historians say, but it was like a process of different factors contributing to this evolution, okay, in the process of industrialization. Okay, that has to do with the moment, of course. You have read and you have talked about that, yes. And then we have what time is it? Okay, we're going to have 30 minutes more, and that's it. Yes, we have
Mr.
the next. Yes.
Um, I don't know, but I don't agree with the author in that point, because if you consider that it is an evolution, it means that e- any other revolution, that doesn't matter what kind of revolution, means that it's also an evolution. Because imagine if French Revolution, that for him maybe it's not a revolution but evolution, because always there was accumulating opinions and politic context that took to the French Revolution. So revolution started because it has an impact. So for me, it's not an evolution. It contributed, yes, but it's a revolution because never before happened like this impact in the world.
Yes, when he talks about this
This is
evolution,
my point of view.
yes, yes, of course, yes. What he means, but by evolution, he says that it was like a gradual, okay, according to the data, to the information that he got, that, for example, the growth of national income from or between 1700 and to 1860, okay, suggests a gradual improvement. It wasn't because it is not very clear, of course. We cannot say, okay, from this year there was, what he means by revolution, he says that usually revolutions have a date. You see, like the French Revolution, okay, in those days, right? But he says that perhaps it started before, it had a gradual development. That's what he means by evolution. Yes, but your point is also acceptable because it, according to the social point of view, you have that it caused a great deal of change, okay, in many different aspects of society. Okay, and if you take from that perspective, it's okay. He says as regards perhaps economy, okay, it could be an evolution because of gradual increase in something.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Florencia. Okay, what? But of course, you have that. Not only this revolution or revolution brought many changes, but we are going to see how the French Revolution and the wars with Napoleon brought a lot of disturbances and consequences into British society. That's why we have here in reaction and radicalism from 1815 to 1827, like a moment in history which is very important, okay, in British history. Okay, it's going to be important in the whole world, okay, because it was during those times, during this decade, that there were major, for example, revolutions of independence in Latin America, for example. Okay, you have our Declaration of Independence in 1916, the Revolution of May, Chile, well, a lot of places. Okay, so this is going to be also similar in Britain, not as too much as regards a revolution in the terms of political revolution, but in a different way. Okay, because we have that with the Treaty of Vienna. So we have here 1815, the date as the end of the Napoleonic Wars. Napoleon was defeated, Britain won the wars, okay, or the war, let's say, and we're going to see that all these stimulus that the industry got because of these wars and all these stimulus as regards economy will start to decrease because of certain conditions that started to appear in Britain, okay? And that's why, okay, you have on the next, okay, page that according to the author, 1816 was a depressing year, okay? Of course, perhaps we remember 2020 as one of these years, okay? But according to the author, 1816 was a depressing year. Why? And then you have which were Liverpool's measures as regards this year, okay? So why did he consider that it was a depressing year? Who can help me?
Teacher?
Fernanda?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, okay.
I think it has to do with the destruction of the markets in Britain. It says that we have destroyed the good industries, especially that of iron, coal, and shipbuilding.
Okay, great. Yes, remember that wars cause demands for goods, especially as regards iron, for example. And with the end of the war, what happens? Okay, where are they going to sell more ships or more machinery connected with wars? Okay, that is going to be a problem. Right, Fernanda, that's it. Okay, well, that's one thing. Okay, that's one thing.
We have the increasement of unemployment.
Yes, why you have unemployment?
Because as Napoleonic Wars ended, soldiers were not more needed. So what did they do now? Only one of them found employment.
Okay. Yes.
Other was forced to look for a poor relief.
Okay, yes. Okay, then we're going to talk about the poor relief. Sorry, I just want to mention this image that I find very interesting when I don't see your faces. Okay, that's why I laugh when I'm asking about your names. Okay, because I don't even know. Okay, sometimes your voices, but I usually do it. Okay, but yes. Okay, the demobilization of soldiers caused unemployment because soldiers returned to their homes. Soldiers, okay, and what did they do? And they didn't find job, of course. Okay, so we're going to have that they had to seek seek assistance in the poor law, in the poor relief measures. And apart from that, there were moments of poor harvests. Okay, it was a moment of a bad harvest. Cosecha. Okay, when people in Argentina are having the news that, okay, la cosecha fue récord del trigo, but some years, because of the droughts or many other things as regards weather, it is not that successful. So a bad harvest also caused a drawback in that year. Okay, that's why it is mentioned by the author as a depressing year. To make things worse, Liverpool imposed certain measures. Okay, what measures did he do? Can you tell me? Lord Liverpool was the prime minister. Which were his measures? Especially in these days. this year?
The income tax
16. What happened with the income tax?
was abandoned in that year.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Remember income tax in Spanish?
Introduce the
Sorry. What was the income tax? First of all.
In Spanish, impuesto a las ganancias.
Yes. Impuesto a las ganancias. Who pay for that tax usually?
Those who had more money.
Okay, yes, okay. So by abandoning the income, and of course, when you have William Pitt fight Napoleon, introduce this tax to get money to fight the war. Yes, because he needed money. Sometimes governments or states need this tax because it is fresh, okay, a fresh source of money. That's why we have so many problems with income tax in Argentina, because different governments need money, especially from people with high salaries, to pay for other things, right? Now it is a problem in Argentina because inflation is going up. The income tax rate is the same, okay? So many people that are, you know, nurses or teachers pay the income tax, and that is not fair sometimes. And in those times, he abandoned. Liverpool said, no, okay, we're not going to need money, even though it is a depressing year, but we're going to abandon, okay, the income tax. Who is going to benefit that? Rich people, yes? He also introduced, Melanie, you said he introduced what? Are you there, Melanie?
law.
Okay, the corn
Yes,
laws.
I'm here.
Okay. Yes, yes. It's a joke. It's a joke from the image. The corn
there
laws.
was a problem with the land during the war.
Right. Who can explain something about or who can tell me what the corn laws are? Because Melanie said, yes, it was a problem with the land during these Napoleonic Wars. Who can tell me what the corn laws are? Because this is a very important question in a final exam. I'm telling you, spoilers alert. So if you answer the corn laws clearly and accurately, you have a surplus, okay? You can get more benefits in the final exam, okay? In the final oral exam. So who can tell me? You can make a try now. What the corn laws are.
They were restrictions on trade.
Why?
It was a
Who can tell me about? Okay, because that is the next question. Describe the corn law, state its origins and consequences.
They were protectionist measures against import. And the origin was that...
Annabelle, is that you?
Yes.
Okay, Annabelle. Okay.
Hello.
Okay. Hello, Annabelle. Okay, thank you.
During Napoleonic Wars, it was necessary to feed a population because of the blockade. So more cultivated area was needed. And now that the war ended, that cultivated area was not more needed. So
yes, you see, you're right, Annabelle. Yes, you have more people, okay, during this shortage of food because of the blockades that Napoleon introduced. More people needed to eat, And so landlords or landowners started to cultivate sometimes more areas that were in the past not so profitable, that they were not so good for cultivation, right? But now with the end of the Napoleonic Wars, what happened? Annabelle, yes.
Well, that or all that landowners or farmers cultivated were not needed or not so needed.
Okay, right. And what were they going to do with all those products that they had if they didn't have, I don't know, market to sell? And that is the question. Yes, that is the question. Okay, that is the question. So you say landowners say, okay, what are we going to do with all these products, all this corn? I mean, corn is maize, you know, but has to do with grains, granos, not only corn, but also wheat or barley. Okay, so you don't have a market to sell. Okay, what are we going to do? And there,
took advantage of that situation to increase prices.
okay, yes, okay. And besides, the government introduced the corn laws, which were protectionist measures. What did they do? I mean, with these corn laws, what was the measure? They blocked.
Banned the importation of wheat from abroad. So people were obliged to buy that or wheat or that to the local, let's say, landowners or to the local market.
That's it. Good, Annabelle. Yes, the government or the state put restrictions or ban the importation. That is the term, right? It blocked the import of foreign wheat or foreign grains. Let's call them grains in general. So that is to say, okay, with this competition, perhaps imagine Argentina is banning the import of wheat from Brazil, which is very cheap. Okay, so we're not going to have cheap wheat from Brazil because our landowners need to sell their products. Okay, but that is going to be a problem because you say, oh yes, like it is said nowadays, la defensa de la industria nacional, something like that. Okay, you say, but what happens? There are monopolies. You have the existence of monopolies that can do whatever they want with the prices, and they can set the prices really high, and people will have obviously to buy products at that price because they have no other chance. And that is going to be a problem because who were the ones who got benefit, or who were the one benefited from that, or from those corn laws?
Is there? I think it has to do with the landholders who own the majority of the profitable farmland.
Okay. And those landowners usually usually were members of the parliament. Oh, so obvious.
The
okay.
nobility?
You see? Yes, not so much about nobility, but landowners. Sometimes they were not nobles. Okay, when we talk about nobility, it's something that regards their titles. Here it is about people that had land. People that had land. And remember, as I told you in last Friday, that usually the government was made up of those people. You know, landowners with their sons who were also landowners, or yes, it was an oligarchy. So they created a measure that protected them, okay, from a loss of profits. And the ones who suffered the most were the workers, because they had to pay, they say, okay, we have to pay high prices as regards wheat or barley, because remember that in those times, bread, you know, pan, bread was the staple food. Perhaps they had tea with bread, and that was the all the food that they had to eat during the day. Yes, and that was, and of course, people started to complain because that was not fair. Of course, that was not fair. And due to this measure, due to these corn laws, many workers started to organize themselves, okay, to demand for the repeal of the corn laws, because they say we cannot pay high prices to save their companies, okay. That is what they demanded. They say no, it is not fair, okay. So we are going to have the appearance of workers, of groups of workers demanding for a political reform, because they say we want a system that represents us, because the system is managed by the landowners who are blaming us for something that we are not the ones to blame for, right? So we have the appearance of journals, of newspapers, and then we have the union of workers and middle class to, we have this union to demand for a reform in the system, to demand for a vote, okay, because they want to take part in the system, okay, because they say this system is not fair, we have to do something, okay. That's why the corn laws are very important during those times, okay. Of course, there was, as I told you, as we talked about last Friday, there was an overreaction by the government, okay, because they said that they wanted to do a revolution, but in fact it was an evolution in the system, okay, and sometimes people joined, okay, to, that's why you have the picture that I put here, you see, people talking about this, people discussing about the things and so on. But of course, many members of the government overreacted, and there were, for example, as it is mentioned there in the book, some riots, some massacres, okay, as it is one of them mentioned, in which a lot of people were killed. The government, for example, passed the 6 acts, which prohibited meetings, imposed a tax on newspapers, okay? But of course, the author says that they were not fully implemented, but of course they were overreactions on the hand of the government. Okay? Last class, we talked about laissez-faire. Did you talk about free trade and Adam Smith? Were you in with Mr. Brizuela? Just do thumbs up or oh, surprise, or say something. Because the next topic has to do with the rise of laissez-faire.
I think we didn't see that that point, teacher.
No, what is laissez-faire? No, free trade, Adam
yet.
Smith. No, not yet. Okay, right. Okay,
Not
so
yet.
I end the session. I end the session here now, and we start, and we have the last 10 minutes, okay, to talk about that. Okay. Finish. We're going to talk a little bit about a laissez-faire. or the rise of laissez-faire. That is the pronunciation. Remember that. Laissez-faire, laissez-faire, laissez-faire. Okay. You have here, okay, that the author says, take a look at what he says at the beginning. While the battle over parliamentary reform was being fought on public platforms, a much less dramatic but ultimately more crucial struggle was being waged over economic and constitutional ideology. This has to do with laissez-faire, okay? A fight, okay, in those times over constitutional and economic, especially ideology, right? You have that this ideology of laissez-faire was supported by some people, of course. One of them was Adam Smith, you have here on the right, and the other was Jeremy Bentham. Okay, what do we mean by laissez-faire? Okay, can anyone tell me in simple words, if you can do it, of course, to express what laissez-faire is?
The meaning of that was stop uh, stop making it was like limits, let things pass. It was a protest against the state, the interference of the state in business.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
It was a
yes,
campaign.
okay. Even though now, Tanya, right? Tanya?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, Tanya.
Yes, even though now we are struggling, okay, or there are people arguing about the role of the state and the role of the free play of the market forces, okay. But as you said here is that there is a demand for the interference of the state on certain matters, sometimes political or other times economic, okay, and especially economic aspects, okay. That's why when you have here, when you read the manual and when you read the book, okay, you have that they advocated the lifting of restrictions on individual enterprise so as to allow the free market, the free play of the market forces. What do I mean by that? What do they mean by restrictions? Especially, it is a key word with laissez-faire. The lifting is the removal of restrictions. In economy, which would be those restrictions?
Taxes,
Sorry?
taxes.
Taxes. Okay,
That
taxes,
that is
impuestos.
why I meant that the meaning of laissez-faire was let them do and let them pass
Yes.
for working
Okay.
and trading.
Good. Okay, so in a way, let's say, okay, we cannot, it is not possible to have so many taxes, okay, or we don't have to impose taxes on things because that doesn't, as Tanya said, that you don't have to let them do or let them be, okay, the free play is also mentioned here, okay. This is a big argument nowadays, especially in Argentina in these past 20 years, when we have a lot of restrictions, a lot of taxes, okay, with the first government of Kirchner and Cristina, and then the lifting of those restrictions with Macri, and now the imposition of restrictions with this new government, with this government by Fernandez. Because if you want a clear example, try to think about nowadays, which is the most famous tax nowadays in Argentina? Can you tell me? This is common sense and general knowledge.
AFIP?
Yes, no, taxes. Impuesto a las ganancias, well, that is also common. IVA, yes, that was. But now we have many problems with one
El
tax,
dólar.
especially.
El dólar.
Yes, okay. The tax that was imposed to the purchase of dollars. Because there was a tax in last year that was imposed, that was an impuesto país. Yes. That if you wanted to buy $1, you had to pay a 30% more. And now if you want to buy $1, you have to pay 30% more and
Declare your incomes. Right?
and sorry?
13.
Okay, so you have an extra.
I never buy
Okay, so
dollars.
an extra. Yes, so an extra tax. So that is the opposite of laissez-faire. Because laissez-faire says, no, we shouldn't put so many taxes because that doesn't allow. So try to imagine factories or companies that need to buy products from abroad. It's going to be harder for them to get dollars to buy those products, okay? So Bentham and Adam Smith especially said that there should be a lift on the restrictions, because if you don't have taxes, you can create competition. And if you create competition, you have lower prices. That is what he said, of course, okay? That was what he said. Perhaps in practice, it is much more difficult than that, because he was against the mercantilist idea of taking trade as a war in which you protected your products from abroad and things of the sort, because that has to do with this, with the next question as regards mercantilism. Oh no, I didn't put that one. Oh, okay. No problem. But you have here that he says, okay, there should be less taxes because that creates competition. And if you have competition from abroad with products from abroad from your product, okay, you're going to have cheaper products. You're going to specialize on the products that are profitable for your country, okay? And we're going to create like a kind of free play, okay? Let it be, let it pass idea. But of course, they said that the state should have a role, okay? It was not like an anarchy, okay? But what should the state's role be according to this ideology? An idea? No?
I'm confused.
He
The
would
state,
say that
the state has a role in regulating capitalism, but I don't understand that so much.
yes, he said that, okay, economy, okay, okay, or state shouldn't intervene too much on economy, but the state should or must take responsibility for matters such as education and communication. Okay, that you cannot, let's say, privatize education, but state should have or should be responsible for those aspects in a nation. Okay, it's not that because everything a free play. Okay. And Bentham especially had an idea as regards the political system, which were his ideas. In general terms, and this is for you to take a look later, he said that a parliamentary reform should be undertaken without putting the political system in risk. That is to say, there should be a reform in the parliamentary system. Okay? Why? Because the parliament and the electoral system were examples of institutions that needed a reform because they were not fair. Okay? They say that, okay, people are not, or most of the people are not represented in parliament, most of the people, because they don't vote. So there should be a reform in that system. Okay, because we have, so that they could have more participation. Okay, they also, or Bentham also wished to abolish, wished to take control of the poor law system. That is to say, he wanted to reform the poor law system, wanted to abolish patronage, okay, patronage, dádivas, and the opening, and he wanted to open public posts to men of ability by means of competitive examinations. For example, if you wanted to be a member of, if you wanted to be a judge, you had to go under an exam, which now it is done, but sometimes no. Okay, so all those ideas were done as regards the political system. He also wanted to make a national police force. Yes, but the best example as regards Bentham's ideas on that cause and impact of public life has to do with, or have to do with, the poor law and India. Okay, they used India as a laboratory for these experiments, let's say. Okay, so for example, they did certain things as regards taxation to land. They wanted to abolish monopolies, because monopolies are protectionist measures. Okay, so as to improve trade in India. Okay. Okay, yes. Well, let's stop here. Let's stop here, because then you have something as regards Lord Liverpool, who was the prime minister in those times. And just read about Lord Liverpool because he has two big faces, I don't like the word face, but two, let's say, stages during his ministries. One which is a very repressive stage, and the other which was more liberal. It was more open as regards ideas. But remember that Liverpool never wanted a reform in the parliamentary system. He lasted for a long time, 15 years in office. That is a lot. 15 years in office is a lot. But he was against parliamentary reform. So that is for you to read later, okay, in detail. Consider more about Liverpool, because these are very important days in British history, okay? Next class, we are going to talk about the era of reform. So please read chapter number 6. And we're going to check the questions in chapters number 6 and chapter number 7, which are very important, okay? And perhaps the following Friday, I have to see the date of final exams, you're going to have oral presentations, okay? So get ready, 15 days, okay? So, but then I will tell you how we're going to do it, okay? But now focus on the era of reform and unit 7 too, okay? Thank you for attending. Thank you for your participation, and see you next Friday.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.